Hello and welcome once again to another edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. I'm GX94 Agriculture Director Doug Falconer. I'm joined by 620 CKRM Regina AgriNews Director Ryan Young and the Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh. Good day, gentlemen.
Hey, Doug.
Good day, good day.
Maybe we'll start off with the news that came right off the first part of the week. The Canadian Canola Growers Association announcing the early application window for cash advances is now open. I think that's pretty good news for farmers, Kevin, who might need some cash flow this time of year.
I think that people will want to start looking at that certainly as they look at lining up their operating expenses. I have to confess, I haven't applied for a cash advance for a lot of years. I think a lot of producers probably will want to wait until their crop insurance coverage levels are announced in the next week or two, because I think the early cash advances are based off of, or can be based off of, crop insurance coverage. Manitoba's program has been announced, so they know where their crop insurance is at. Saskatchewan, we're still waiting. I suspect a lot of producers here will wait to see that before doing their cash advance applications.
All right, and another topic this week was the Pig Brig, and that was a certain device that's used to catch wild boars, and apparently it's catching on here in Canada. And Ryan, you did an interview with a guy who works for Pig Brig out of the southern U.S.
That's right. I had the opportunity to speak with Aaron Summerall, who's with the company Pig Brig, who makes the trap of the same name. And I was just taken aback or very interested, whatever phrase you wanted to use about the device, just simply because of the simple setup that it is and how much demand there is for it too. It's not too long ago that they sold their first unit in September of 2020. Widespread use in the United States. It's got some international use. It's in 35 different countries that they've sold to. To date, they've sold about 7,000 units of the Pig Brig trap, and it's getting some use here in Canada as well. He said, it's a great opportunity for Canadian producers and anyone else in rural areas, for that matter, to use it, knowing that a wild pig / boar issue has been a long-standing issue here in Canada over the last 20, 25 years or so. And really, it's just simple, just a mesh trap where the pigs, they get attracted to whatever bait you use, and they go underneath the mesh. And then once they're through the mesh, they can't get out. I've seen videos too of this thing in action, and it's just amazing how many that you can trap, like 15, 20 wild pigs at a time. It's just really impressive. So kind of an interesting origin story too. It was part of an ongoing project to getting rid of some non-native wild boar species in Guam. And the design at the time wasn't too different from what it is now. The only difference being they had an automatic trap door that was controlled by a cell phone. And they realized early on that the wild boars, they weren't going through the trap door. They were just going underneath the mesh. So it wasn't necessarily to use the trap door to catch the pig. It was more so to keep the pig in. So it's like, well, why do we need the technology when we have something really good here? So really a fascinating story that I managed to, again, get the opportunity to do a two-part feature on Sask Ag today. And I really hope that the demand increases for something like this, to get to a similar point where the U.S. is, especially where they've basically eradicated their wild pig situation, and we're still kind of dealing with it 20, 25 years later.
Kevin?
Yeah, I had the impression from listening to the interview, though, that he thought maybe we could stem our wild boar problem. I think there's places in the U.S. where it's such a prevalent problem that they're going to have lots of sales of this trap mechanism, because they've got a huge problem, as I understand it, in parts of the states. I've actually never seen a wild boar in the wild here, but I know there's lots of reports, and there's areas that are seeing an increasing problem with them. Have you guys ever actually seen one in the wild?
We've had some occasionally on the farm back in the day. There usually be some in our bush that would be a family of wild pigs, but they've fortunately, never really bothered us or our crops for that matter. I know they can be very capable of causing a lot of damage and wreaking havoc. So other than a few sightings, we never really had a huge problem where we were around Margot.
Yeah, no, where I grew up too, it wasn't an issue. It's my understanding it's more of eastern Saskatchewan. It's like I think it's around that Carlisle area. I think there's been some issues, and I think that Melfort Tisdale area up north too, I've heard, but I don't think it's an issue in western Saskatchewan from what I've heard. And of course, Kevin, you farm in southwestern Saskatchewan, and obviously we've never seen any, and I don't think there's any in the Saskatoon area that we know of either.
Yeah, but that's a way we want to keep it. We don't need them.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
All right, another big topic this week was here in Yorkton. The Stakes and Stems Producer Night was held here on Wednesday night. The Saskatchewan Ministry of Agriculture put that on here. Chuck Penner of Left Field Commodity Research in Winnipeg was one of the guest speakers. He talked about canola, wheat, oats, barley, and peas and what the markets are looking like. And then, of course, we also had Brian Perilat of Bullseye. He's from Airdrie, Alberta, but originally from Duck Lake, Saskatchewan. He talked about the livestock industry and where things are going there. And basically, both of them were pretty optimistic for the most part. Probably more so Brian Perilat, because he says the livestock numbers right now, especially in the States, are so tight. Shrinking herd there, a bit of a shrinking herd here, and prices for cattle, for instance, are pretty good right now.
I would suspect. What did people ask Chuck Penner about? Did they ask him when the price of canola was going to go back up?
Well, no, he didn't get too many questions. I asked him about that. He said he figured April or May. He said trending wise, it usually jumps up April, May. He goes almost every year. You will see the price increase. So he said, if you do have any, I would, I'm not telling you what to do, he said, but you might want to hold it till April or May, because that seems to be when the price usually rallies just before the start of the next crop year. And I guess as people, aren't out in the fields yet, and it's not a big deal because usually people get their canola hauled for them. Most people don't haul anymore themselves, so I mean it's not going to earn up their seeding hopefully. But I mean I guess there are still a few people that do haul their own grain and oil seeds, but it sounds like most people get it trucked out now, don't they, Kevin?
It's actually, that used to be the case where, especially if it was going any distance, it was custom trucked. But now there's more and more, especially the mid-sized and larger producers that own their own trucking units. And some even find that as a way to keep an employee all winter long rather than just a seasonal employee. So I'd say it's changed a fair bit in recent years, with more and more producers getting their own B trains, or at least a Tridem or trailer setup, so they can haul a significant quantity. But the drop in canola prices is, has continued. We saw a little bit of life this week, and then it dropped back down and bounced around a bit. But I think it's really changed the outlook for 2024 unless something major happens.
Well, he did say wheat prices were looking pretty good right now. He wasn't recommending seeding barley because he said barley prices have really tanked. And he goes, for instance, he said beer consumption has dropped dramatically over the last few years. People are just drinking less beer. They're drinking other forms of alcohol. So he was suggesting you might not want to go the barley way. Of course, oats, we have a grain millers here in Yorkton, which produce, generates oat production here, but I'm not sure if oats is all that popular anywhere else in the province than other in this area.
Oats is, certainly a central and northern grain belt crop. A lot in northeast Saskatchewan, though, would be centered there. Where I come farm from in southwest Saskatchewan, very rare actually to see a crop of oats. Can't get the yields that are necessary to make that work, and don't have access to markets. And oats is a light crop, so the shipping cost gets very onerous in a hurry if you have to move it long distances to market.
And he also touched on peas, and he did mention, of course, the LDC announcement last week of the pea production plant coming to Yorkton. And of course, he had the same question you did, Kevin, about how big is this thing going to be, even though we know it's a $500 million plant, but how many bushels is it going to put through yearly? So that was the big question he had there, but he had no doubt that it would definitely see more peas being produced in this area because of that plant coming online probably sometime at the end of 2025.
Yeah, very good news, that is.
Yeah. And Ryan, you did a story this week as well about the AgTech Innovator Program. I guess that's going to be run in conjunction with Canada's Farm Show come June.
Yeah, that's right. I had the opportunity to speak to a couple of people from the Cultivator, the organization that is running the AgTech Accelerator Program. They announced the other day that 15 agriculture companies have been selected to participate in the program. It's the third cohort of the program, which is a fancy way of saying this is the third group of companies that are taking part in the program since it launched in 2021. 11 of those companies are based in Canada, two of which are Saskatchewan based, both from Saskatoon. And I hope I get the pronunciations of these companies right. Apologies in advance for anybody that works there that I butcher the pronunciation. But Abazine Biosciences and Pathoscan, they're among the group that are going to be in this program, as well as four that are from the UK as part of a global partnership and as part of the Innovate UK global incubator program. So it's pretty good to see some companies taking part, and emphasis on this too is on collaboration and working with industry experts, investors, and producers directly as well, and kind of basically growing their brands, their respective brands to the next level, and really kind of honing in on their ideas and how they can grow. And then after that's done between March and June, there's supposed to be in Regina here around the first week for 1 week in March, and then continue to collaborate some more up until June, which by then will be Canada's farm show season, so to speak. And a lot of these companies, they're going to be pitching their company during demo day at the launch pad at Canada's farm show. So looking forward to seeing what these companies have to pitch and what they have to say. And it's helped a lot of companies out. There's been 32 since 2021 that have taken part, and they've raised about $107.7 million in private capital, including some likely at the farm show investing as well and making deals there. It's also generated 47 million in revenue and about 32.7 million in public funding. So this is really something that for any other ag tech companies or any other ag companies that are looking to grow, this is definitely something that you can take advantage of.
What do you think of that AgTech Accelerator Program, Kevin?
It is good, yeah, and it'll be interesting to see the two names that Ryan mentioned. I think I've heard of the one, but I'm not fully aware. So even whether if they get funding, good on them. It's also great for awareness to get in the public stage and get feedback on their products and ideas. So certainly something to look forward to for Canada's Farm Show in June.
And Kevin, you had a chance to speak with the CEO of Hammond Realty to talk about farmland sales, I guess specifically over the last year or so. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a different trend than we've heard. We always hear land prices are going up amazingly fast, and that, as far as we know, hasn't really changed. But it's the market has adjusted somewhat. Tim Hammond of Hammond Realty follows how many farmland sales are listed on the MLS service, and he's been following this for a number of years. And it's finally seeing an uptick in the last year. More farm listings out there, and he thinks that'll put the market a little bit more in balance. He also says investors are taking a different look at holding farmland now, whether it's your family farm that's being rented out or whether it's an investment company. With GICs available at a bank at 5% interest, suddenly there's some of those investors might be looking and saying, well, that's a decent rate of secure return, and certainly not getting 5% in rent, although the land does continue to increase in value. So he believes there will be more farmland coming on the market in the next year or two. And he also believes the market and the desire to buy land is decreasing a little bit. There's still really good demand, but not nearly the same number of offers on any particular parcel. So this is a little bit of a bellwether moment in the land market that has been shooting straight up since about the mid 90s, and it's had some huge escalation. We may see that rate of increase taper off in the year or two ahead, the way, especially the way grain prices look at the moment.
All right. And probably the last thing I wanted to bring up was the fact that Tuesday was Canada's Agriculture Day. And of course, I know Federal Agriculture Minister Lawrence MacAulay put out a news release on it, but I think it is a good thing to keep reminding people out there about how important agriculture is to not only the economy, but to our livelihoods in general.
Yeah, I would agree, although we tend to be in a little bit of an echo chamber. We talk to ourselves about it. I wonder how many people in the general public knew it was Agriculture Day.
Yeah, that's a good question. I wonder the same thing too. But like you say, nonetheless, it's really important that we get the message out there that, agriculture is a very important sector in any economy around the world, really. It's really the backbone of any economy because without it, we don't feed the world, we don't get the food that we get. So, very essential.
Well, on that note, I think that'll do it for this week's edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. On behalf of Chief Agricultural Editor Kevin Hursh and 620 CKRM Regina AgriNews Director Ryan Young, I'm GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director Doug Falconer, saying so long until next time.